will now being stopped. Thank you. So it's now being recorded. And Agus, you're just in a hotel, but you're not in quarantine or anything, are you?
Well, no, we've had a funny old time in that one of our BBC colleagues tested positive in Adelaide 3 days ago. So that, as you can imagine, set the cat among the pigeons, really, because we are mixing between the two boxes. And I work in the gym. I mean, you can't actually tell whether Jim has got COVID or not, to be honest, but we're sort of moving in and out. So
my medicine, don't worry.
Well, I am too. It's what's so strange about all this. So we've been testing negative throughout, and so we took the decision that we'd come here to Melbourne. So I'm actually, to answer your question, I'm in Melbourne. I didn't see the last 2 days of the Adelaide game because we were isolating and travelling. And I just hope that this whole series kind of completes, because you feel it's on a bit of a knife edge with the COVID business and Cummins and so on. And it is, if you consider the whole ramification of one person testing positive, and therefore it sort of spreads throughout here and there, but he interviewed so-and-so and he was there. And, you know, it's a really difficult situation, but I really hope hopefully you'll get through it. I'm here in Melbourne. The weather's lovely. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the test match. And we're obviously going to win 3-2.
Yeah, great. Well, for those who are, I would imagine everyone.
Look at Taylor. Look at Taylor.
What you've walked in on is Jonathan Agnew, who is on fire. He is throwing shots across the bow, left, right, and centre.
Can I just say, I'll just say now, I've had a very good lunch in St Kilda, which is a lovely spot. And
what are they serving down there?
Some very good oysters, by the way, and Tasmanian oysters, not the slightly dodgy ones up the coast. And it's been a lovely lunch, and it's just great to be here. That's the point. And, you know, raising funds for the primary club, which actually means a lot to me, because I'm the president of the East Midlands UK primary club, so it means a huge lot, and it's a very special charity. So for all the leg pulling and the messing around and so on, actually today it's actually quite a serious cause, so it's really good to be here.
Yeah, and it's so good to have you, and Mark Taylor obviously as well. We've had the opportunity to have you as part of this session last year. It was such a success that time around. The opportunity to bring you back in is a real pleasure. And where does this find you, Mark?
It finds me at home. A bit like what Agus was saying, that he left Adelaide on day 4, I think. Agus, was it?
4 for me.
Yeah, well, I hung in there because there was that positive test or that positive case, which somehow didn't affect us, even though we're only 20 metres away. We got no advice about what we should do, so we hung in there. Called the rest of the test. I was working for Triple M Radio over there. Watched the last couple of days, thoroughly enjoyed it. Obviously the fact that Australia won certainly helped, but I'm personally just enjoying being back at the game. So even this morning when you sort of head to the airport, you're almost waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, by the way, pal, you're not getting on a plane. But that doesn't happen. You fly home. I went straight and just personally did a rapid antigen test and a PCR test just for my own peace of mind, even though I'm not labelled a casual or even close contact. So that's the sort of world that we live in. You're always trying to think what is the right thing to do, even though you've got no idea what that is.
Yeah.
So it was very odd. It was like sort of riding for the Mexican border yesterday. Like you had the posse behind you and you're riding through. It has been a very strange experience, and we've had that for the last 2 years of playing in bubbles and no crowds, and the test match is still happening. And I just really hope these last 3 test matches happen, because obviously we'll be 3-2, but we need to get through this whole COVID business, and just try and make it right, because cricket and sport still has a really big part to play at the moment. Especially at home, there's a huge COVID crisis going on, so we've got to keep the sport going.
And Jim, Merry Christmas! Lovely to see you, my friend. How are you? Great Christmas tree in the background.
It's superb, isn't it?
It's sensational.
There's about $100,000 worth of baubles on that tree, thanks to my wife. who always finds things to put on it. So I think she's hoping for more. They won't fit on the tree, but it is nice, as Mark says, to be at home. I've been home since Sunday night because we all jumped out of the place once Cricket Australia said don't go to the ground, and we thought, or the ABC management thought, best to get out of Adelaide before South Australian Health realised that we're infected or whatever we might be with close contact, and they'll lock us up in a hotel. Anyway, it's all a bit chaotic, as we've heard it today, with them changing the rules about getting to Adelaide and not having to be tested. So it's a bit all over the place. Hopefully that won't happen when we go to Melbourne, and we can kind of breathe easy. But they're disruptive times, aren't they? But thank you very much for coming on the show, Aggers and Mark Taylor, our 12th man. And we might have another guest on. We'll just see what happens.
Would you be able to, because the promotional flyer suggests, and we always put the subject to change, but a certain former England skipper is supposed to be here.
Still trying to ring him. I'm ringing at the moment, and he's not answering his phone. I'll keep trying.
Was a 9 o'clock? Was a 9 a.m. start in the UK for Mike Gatting ambitious on our part, or
I'm still ringing? I just get a voicemail service. I'll still keep trying him. He's probably still having his dinner from last night, knowing Gat.
I think you are still having your lunch, from what I can see as well. I'll
keep trying.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Welcome to everyone who is here as well. As you could imagine, we are in the week of Christmas, and the stricter formalities are a little bit looser tonight, and I think that's going to really lean into what we have here today, the commentator's curse, which is one that I've been looking forward to for a long time, because when you get to see the voices that you hear that define the game, it's sensational. Already
a big disappointment usually.
Yeah, visually, but that's okay because the voice remains great. First, a huge thank you to our sponsors, as always, the series sponsor, Vocus Communications. They are Australia's leading fibre and network solutions company. And hello to any of the Vocus customers, partners and staff. Ponting Wines, who continue to provide the product with which we shall be enjoying enthusiastically over the next hour. And the Entertainment Corner, who have come on board as a sponsor for this one. Obviously, the location for our SCG test breakfast on the first morning. And we cannot wait to be able to bring that back. And so thank you to the Entertainment Corner as well. The format is as we usually do it. We're going to have a chat. Whilst we're chatting, you have the opportunity to ask a question to any three of these guys. In this particular instance, all three are the absolute experts, and you do that via the Q&A feature. We'll be asking those later. We also have the auction with which the proceeds go to the primary club. Before we get to what the auction item is, which Mark is very kindly donating this evening, Jim, give us, for those who are fresh to this, a bit of an insight into what the money is going to for the primary club.
Well, it goes to a variety of activities related to the disabled. To put it in its broadest terms, it's not specifically applied to this or that project, but to any number of projects that people put up about needing wheelchairs for the disabled, about needing sailability to do with those out on the water. There's a variety of things, but since we started in 1974 as the primary club of Australia, we're up to about, what's Jeff, 7 million in donations. So we rely a lot on our members making the donations, thanks to the, shall I call it, generosity of Australia's cricketers, who just every now and then get out first ball. And included all the girls as well as the boys now. So we're pushing up to about 15 or 16 ducks. And we've got, I think, some specialty schools also on that list of the recent organisations that have received funds. So essentially, it's the sporting charity for the disabled, sporting equipment for the disabled. That's how it's a little different from the English one, which is basically set up for the visually impaired, I think is the expression you use these days. Whereas we went a little left field when we set this up all those years ago.
Yeah, and it's an amazing charity, and you see how competitive these kids are who play it. I mean, I can't believe that Mark Taylor was ever out first ball, but for the rest of us, you throw money in. Actually, you have to chuck it in. And if Mark, have you been out first ball anywhere on the beach, in the garden,
I got
in a
out,
test match?
no,
in a
not in a
test
test
match?
match. Not in a test match, no.
You must have been.
No, in a game at Hove.
That'll do.
Piggott.
Yes,
everyone
Tony
called him-
Pygott. Tony Pygott,
Pygott.
actually.
Everyone
Yes.
just called him. Everyone called him Lester after the jockey. That's
They
all I can
did.
remember. Yep.
So
First
what
ball.
happened? What
What's
happened?
that?
How did it nick behind?
Yes, Nick behind. He was bowled. He was coming down the hill. I just remember it was quite a
Yep.
slope on the ground,
There is.
and we let the ball go. I thought he was on top of me. Nicked it, walked
Yep.
off, 1-0. Australia v
And-
Southampton.
Sussex.
Sussex.
And have you paid up?
Well,
No, right, there you go. He's
answer's
not paid
no.
up. Straight away, there's a
No, but
Mark
it's-
Taylor donation tonight. He's
it's
not
only-
paid up.
Surely it's only in
No,
only for
it's
Australia.
any cricket. Any
Any
cricket
cricket.
on
Oh.
the beach. So Mark Taylor owes straight away. There you go.
Jeez, how much do I
Thank you
owe
very
him?
much indeed. There
That
you
goes
are.
that goes back to 1989. I owe a
Get the
fortune.
doesn't matter. Get the money in. Thank you. We're ahead already.
You can run this every time, Agus. This is great.
How many
These
first balls have you got, Agus?
Well, I've only got one, and I paid up. It was Garth LaRue. An ugly dismissal, heading off towards the leg side, as you'd imagine from me, and he cleaned me up. But I have paid up. Whereas people like Taylor, you see, they avoid it. So I'm afraid you, Jeremy Coney, and people like that who avoid that first, you've got to pay up, Taylor. That's the end of it. But it's about $50, isn't it? Is it $50?
No, we're only
I think-
$10.
No,
Inflation.
get Taylor
Gotta go
one.
up.
We had Jeff Marsh on last time, and I don't know whether you know this, but when he played New South Wales at the SCG very early on in his career, he got a golden pair opening the innings against
Big
New
money.
South Wales, which is fairly unusual, particularly for an opening batsman.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
big
paid-
money.
he's
It's a big
paid.
pay up.
Has Mike Gatting ever?
Well, I'm still trying to ring. Gat's
Sure.
supposed to be with us, and I'm still
How many,
trying to ring.
how many
Mike
balls
Gatting
did he
back.
last? How many balls did he last before Warney knocked him over?
I don't think he was a duck, but I'm still. I'll try and ring him again. I keep getting his voicemail. Hang
Oh, he's having a roll.
on, it's the voicemail. No, he obviously owes money. I would say he owes money, and he knows he does, and he's hiding. Is what I can say. I'll keep trying him.
Yeah.
I think
I want to do it on speaker next time as well, because I'd love to hear what his voicemail sounds like. The auction
not good.
item for this evening, Mark, you were very, very generously provided.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yes.
what are we going to be bidding for today?
So I've got my fielding hat, which I used in my final test match.
Right.
Yeah,
Signed by
it was.
myself.
It was
I've
his
got a
last one too.
one-day
He's feeling
fielding hat.
terribly.
Yeah, right.
Signed, and I've got a copy of one of my books.
Ah, superb.
Signed.
Right.
Right. Well, there's thousands of
Trifecta.
those. Is that before the pulping station?
Oh God! You're getting in early, Agus. Oh,
Well,
Hey, ask
Agnes
look,
what
I get
ask Agnes
so
what he's
few
bought along.
chances. I get so few chances to get into people like Taylor that you just, all through the night, you just got to get there. You've got to get in first. So I've got, unfortunately, look, I'm a man on tour, and all I can offer is a pair of recently cleaned underpants. And look, I'm on tour. I'm a
Would you
BBC
be-
commentator.
Will you be signing them?
I will sign.
If he
I will
signs,
sign
if he signs,
a
the pen will
pair
go
of-
through them. That's the
And
problem.
they're very nice. A very nice pair of underpants.
now, couldn't you
If anyone wants them.
a broken box from Joe Root signed by him?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
No,
That'd be
no,
good.
that was horrendous, wasn't it?
Well, is,
I mean,
is
serious
he
question.
finished as a
Serious
father? Has
question
he
to Mark
finished as
Taylor.
a father out of that?
Serious question to Tubbs. Would you ever seriously have throwdowns on the outfield without being padded up, as we call it? I mean, seriously.
I must answer this honestly, and the answer is yes.
Wow.
But I wouldn't do it today because they use that dog wanger thing, with those
Yeah.
Yes,
dog ball wang. And they can throw that bloody hard.
they do.
When we played Aggers 100 years ago, people just threw you the ball, and they threw you little half volleys, and you took a pair of gloves out and you bat, and you just knocked a couple of balls in the middle. You thought, okay, I feel good today. That's all I wanted. Now I'm right. But if you go into the nets and someone starts with the dog wanger and starts hoying them down, and you start playing pull shots, well, if I was doing that, absolutely, you've got to wear a box. And I think Joe Root's last couple of days is testament to that.
Yeah, but not just but pads and everything, surely, because it was kind of obvious. If you get hit there and then hit again, you're going to be kind of tentative, aren't you? You're not going to be. Your footwork's not going to be very easy. You're going to be bloody
sore, Agus. That's what you're going to be.
Well, I know. Anyway, but should you have retired hurt? If you were England captain, but if you were England captain and your media as it is, and Jim Maxwell and these people being horrible. If you were England captain, you got hit in the nuts and then walked off. Come on, that's going to be replayed for years.
Yeah,
that's going to be shown you time after time after time.
But as they often say with men, if the blood starts running south, we don't think clearly. That's the problem.
No.
All right. So the test hat has got a $200 bid to open, as we say. Just list what you're bidding for. The test hat for 200. We've got the one-day hat, which is signed as well, and Agger's signed knickers, all available. Just list what you want. We're going to run that between now and 9 o'clock.
I'll go and find a pair. Hang on. I'll go get a pair for you. They've just been washed. Hang on.
I don't believe that for a second. And in the meantime, already people are doing it. The question and answer feature is where you ask questions. We'll be throwing the questions to the guys. And the chat feature is where you put your bids. And Nath Dale, the test hat, $200 to open. And
look at that!
These are actually Ralph Lauren proper pants, which I would suggest are worth considerably more than a Mark Taylor fielding hat. If I'm honest with you, I mean that's the way to go, and they'll be signed. And freshly washed. Okay.
They look like they look like Mario Milano's from the old WWE days, yeah.
No, they're not. They're actually there. They go, and they're sitting there. So there you are.
What size are they for those that might be looking to
I think obviously extra large.
Don't believe it. All right, the extra large knickers, the test hat, and the one-day hat bidding is open. Jim, I've been looking forward to this because, as someone who just loves the media side of cricket, this is the coolest combination of people. So, Jimmy, take it away.
Well, thanks for being on, boys. So we're just going to talk. We don't want to talk about cricket, do we? We talk about
yes. Yeah? What's the score? What's the score in the Ashes series, Jim?
Well, Agus reckons it's going to be 3-2. But imagination is very important. But is that? Look, I'll show you this, which is a collector's edition. And as Mark Taylor said, it's even more of a collector's edition now because not only is Tim Payne, but Joe Root's buggered, isn't he? I mean, he's knackered, literally. So Stokes must be captain for the rest of the series, Agnes.
Well, no. Look, it's tough coming here for all the Mickey taking and the messing around and the great friendships that we have. For an England team coming here, it's hard, and I will just stick up ever so slightly for them because it's my job to be inquiring and asking questions and so on. But they've had now 2 matches, which would then put them 1 match out normally of a first test. They've had no cricket, and it kind of sums up the weird times that we are in. They would normally have 12 days first-class cricket into Brisbane, you play a test match. They had no days cricket. So I think we have to be a little bit cautious about being too hard on the players from either side, really, and just accept where we are. I'm here in Melbourne because I had to evacuate, and you're in Sydney, Jim, because you had to evacuate because of COVID, which is kicking around and being really odd, and it's clearly had a huge impact on not just the players, but everybody. But it's the players that's most important. So in terms of England, they've not had anything like the sort of preparation that they would normally have. And it's different. You guys come to us, and as Mark would say, playing in England. Imagine playing in England, Mark. A Test match at Trent Bridge with no cricket at all, not a single moment of preparation. And
we might have only won 3-1 or something if that was the case.
Oh, he's horrible. He's horrible. He's just appalling.
To be very fair, Agus, the comments which have come through as well very quickly. Winning a test at least aided by bowling at the stumps by Greg. India didn't have an issue. They weren't up to it. I mean, come on.
I know. I'm trying to be fair, and I will accept that I'm somewhat sort of I'm upwind here, as it were. But no, they haven't played well enough.
Can I will go into my bat for my learned colleague here a little bit. There's no doubt that England are off the pace. But to me, they look tired. They look lethargic. In a way, Australia have had the similar preparation. No cricket, no first-class cricket for some of them. A bit of T20 stuff in the World T20 and the IPL. But there's no doubt because Australia are at home, and also because they haven't played much Test cricket, I think that has actually been an advantage. They've got an enthusiasm that England don't have. England, their over rates are disgraceful. And I think that's indicative of a side that's just going through the motions.
No, I agree with that. Totally agree. I totally agree with that.
And your over rates often are a sign of how much you actually want to bowl. When you want to bowl, you're getting through your overs, you're putting the pressure on, you're looking for opportunities. When you're not, you're going through the motions.
Yeah, totally agree. And there's lots of that I agree with, Mark, obviously. I'm a bit concerned about the fact that Root came out very obviously last night and blamed the bowlers, which I think is right to do, but he wouldn't normally do. But he was going at Anderson and Broad there. There's no doubt about it. I think there's this ongoing battle between bowlers and batsmen in the England team, which is unhealthy, as you would accept. I think it's there. And for Root to say it twice, he didn't say it once in an interview. I thought, oh shit, I better not say that again. He keeps saying it. And I interviewed Chris Silverwood today. The coach said the same thing. So no, England's not in a good place. It's not. And I think if the way it's going, it'll be 5-0. There's a lot of depth to the Australian side. It's a reasonable team. It's not as good as the team you led. Let's be honest. There's depth that you had.
Hey, mate, we're going back to the great side there. Like, wow.
Of course. So, but the Australian team is not. This team is not unbeatable, and they've been in situations in which a good opposition could actually nip in and take control. So but England, I'm afraid, are off the pace. But I will just keep offering that slight excuse that they've had very little cricket, and I think to be fair, you just have to put that in there. But the players that they've now have had 2 games each. So whether you chuck them out and bring someone new in who's had no cricket at all, these are odd times. And I don't know how you would have dealt with it, but when you're trying to juggle a team that's had very little practice, what do you do?
I didn't hear Joe's press conference, but it's always very tough not to blame a certain compartment.
He was frustrated. He was very frustrated. Yeah.
But I don't disagree with him if that's the comments he made around Anderson, Broad, particularly Jimmy. I thought Broad was as England's best bowler on day one. He was the guy who actually got it full, made the Aussies play, and actually asked a few questions, and a few of the Aussies have sort of said that since then. I thought Jimmy looked like, to me, he was like in one-day cricket mode. I don't want to go for too many runs. I'll bowl
just dried up.
Length. I'll bowl wide. And at the end of the day, he bowled 30 overs, 2 for 60, which doesn't harm his statistics, but never ever really troubled Australia. On day 3, on day 3 in the second innings, he bowled his best spell when England are 270 runs behind.
It's just
why
too
he
late.
didn't bowl that on day 1, having played 166 Test matches, I don't know. But that suggests to me that 39 might be a little bit too old to be the opening bowler for any Test match team.
Well, I agree with that, and I've had lots of stats from. I have a very close contact in the England team, a bowler, And he sent me all this stuff saying, we've run the stats through, you ran the same length Australia did, but they didn't. They didn't. And even an Australian kind of, second string bowling attack, really, and they're good bowlers, compared to Richardson and Nisa. Yeah, they're decent bowlers, but they're not the same as Cummins and Hazelwood. And England still lost. I mean, I am. I'm not. I'll be, strung up here as a sacrificial lamb. I'm not going to try and defend England because, they've not played their potential. The only thing I will say is they've come here and not had they've had very little preparation. I think that's quite tough because they will be up against the same bowlers who knock them over next week as last week, and it kind of rolls on. They've got no games to have some practice or preparation. So it's a very strange. It's a very strange series, isn't it? There needs to be one of those little asterisk things in wisdom that says this was
the wisdom will have no asterisk. Will be no asterisk. Also, Jai Richardson, the second bowler who took 5.
But it will, but
I thought you'd
but Cummins wasn't there.
We've been crowing about it's 4,000 days or something since England have won a Test match in Australia, but it's all 8,000 since we won a series in England. So I'm surprised that you haven't bounced back with that a bit harder, because we haven't won an Ashes series in England since 2000.
You haven't, but because I'm a gentleman, I wouldn't dare do that. And I'm here in Australian Cup, and now
I'm just trying to help you.
I would I wouldn't dare throw that back because that's not the way that we behave. However, you're absolutely right, Jim. You're absolutely right, James. And thank you for raising it. But
can I pause you there, Agus? Can I pause you there just briefly, because this particular part of the conversation could go on for hours, and there is a bunch of commentary stuff as well that I know Jim wants to chat about. Update on the bidding. Simon Torfel, who will be in fact our guest for the next session in January, is leading the bidding. The Test hat for 300, the ODI hat for 200, one for each of his boys. He chose not to go for the knickers, but Andrew Blood has bid $200 for the knickers, and they will make every primary club player wear them for getting out for nothing.
So they're clean, they're fresh, and they're good to go.
That's where we sit at clean right now. Sorry, Jim, over to you.
They'd be worth 200.
Can I just say that my underpants are worth more than Mark Taylor's fielding hats any time, unless he took the autograph off. If he took the autograph off, they might be worth a bit more, but my underpants are considerably worth more than Mark Taylor's.
Amazing. Again, from a bloke 2-0
down. Wait to see
shots.
Is Tubbs coming to Melbourne? You coming to Melbourne, Tubbs?
I am. Yes.
Right. Okay. Can't wait.
Now, while we're rolling along, do you think seriously? You think day-night Test cricket's got a future, or is it a pup? I mean, it's the most antisocial thing I've ever come across. But the punters aren't turning up in droves like everyone said they would. They got double the crowd a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, Jim, I've got to say, I was one of the pushers for it, sort of 6-7 years ago, and I think when it burst on the scene, it was pretty good, and I still think it's good, and the TV love it because obviously it goes into that night session, so that certainly helps. But I think your point's valid because I thought the crowd was disappointing in Adelaide, but bear in mind, the first 2 days were good. I think they're pretty close to capacity because it's reduced because of COVID. And then I suspect a lot of people got a bit scared when they started hearing about COVID and media centres, and there was stuff in town. And I think a lot of people actually who may have come to the Test match got a bit scared. So, whether that was a true indication of what the crowd could have been, I don't know, because I would have expected Australia v England match at Adelaide, day or day night, would just about sell out, at least for the first 4 days, and it didn't do that. So I think that was a little surprising for sure.
Yeah, well,
we've had one game. It's Edgbaston about 3 years ago, and it was freezing cold. People disappeared about 7 o'clock in the evening. I can see parts of the world. Maybe it doesn't work in Adelaide and Brisbane, and it's not going to work anywhere really because the dew and so on affects day-night cricket under normal circumstances. But it's quite antisocial. We played a game in Auckland about 3 years ago, and we had quite a good, strong England support out to come to New Zealand and watch the cricket and support it. But actually, they were really disappointed because the day-night game in Auckland meant they couldn't get into Auckland and go to the restaurants, go to the bars and have a nice night out and actually enjoy the Auckland experience. It's TV, it's television, and television kind of rules the roost, doesn't it, at the moment? So TV think they can get the people watching at that time of night, and that's why it happens. It's as simple as that.
Why not start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon instead of 2:30? Wouldn't that be better? Then at least you've got some opportunity to go out and enjoy yourself. Is that going to work?
Ask your TV producers, I'd suggest, because they rule the roost on that. And yeah, I mean, day-night games are they're quite they're hard work to work on, they're hard work to play on. But if it means more people are watching it at home and getting into Test cricket, then that's fine. But I haven't seen the figures yet that show that people are dedicated to watching Channel 7 or whatever it may be, or Sky at home that proves that's the case. But the only reason, from my perspective, of playing day-night cricket is the TV audience. And if that expands it, fine. If it doesn't, don't play it.
It's better for England supporters in England, isn't it? Because they can wake up in the morning and see a couple of hours cricket.
Yeah, it depends what they're watching.
Yeah, but if they're watching a day-night game in Australia, seeing,
yeah. But if they're watching it, no, I think it's a bit silly there. Yeah, but it does. I mean, the Adelaide game, so the last session and a half would have been live at home for the weekend if people could watch it and subscribe to it and so on. But I think it's more for a domestic audience, Jim. Your Channel 7s and your Foxes. Yeah. If they go home and watch it live, that's good for a domestic audience. It kind of our audience doesn't matter very much.
There's no doubt that the day-night test rates very well. And, I remember when I worked at 9, it rated very well. I've heard Channel 7 said today it rated extremely well. It goes well. I think the interesting question, though, is does those ratings at night of people, obviously switching on to watch it, does that actually then lead to people going out there and playing or, what they call consuming the game, getting involved in the game? That's the real debate. I'm not sure that does. And if it doesn't, then let's go back to the day games so we can go out at night and have a nice feed at some of the beautiful restaurants around Adelaide.
Yes, and Hobart, but that'll be day night too. Just want to look at the style of broadcasting. Aggers and myself, Mark, have worked on fairly traditional, straight forms of covering the game, with laced with a bit of humour when we get Jeffrey Boycott and other personalities on. But you're working at Triple M. I haven't listened, so I don't know. Is it a little bit different to the normal cricket coverage on Triple M? How would you describe it?
Jim, it's not a little bit different. It's a lot different. I'm here to tell you. Well, I've done, Jim, as you know, I did Channel 9 cricket commentary for about 20 seasons, I think it was. I've done a little bit of work at the ABC. I've done BBC, Channel 5 in England on television. I've done little bits of everything, but Triple M cricket is very different. The good news is, and they keep saying, and I keep saying also, that you've got to first and foremost get the cricket right. You've got to make sure you tell people at home that they're actually, what the score is and what the various batsmen are on and what have you. But after that, it is open slather. It is, Andy Lee comes in regularly. Yesterday we picked our follically challenged 11. So that sort of stuff happens. So yeah. Aggers, you might have got to start, but it was actually those who have actually gone out and done the transplanting. So,
okay, right. So I'm okay.
It was the Gucci's, the Mike, not the Athers, the Michael Vaughns,
Stuart Broad.
Well, see, he actually didn't get a mention.
Stuart Broad.
Jimmy.
Oh, there's loads.
Who had a rug.
Yeah. There's loads of them.
Yeah, so there was Darren Gough, got a run. Doug Bollington, obviously. Greg Matthews, Shane Warne.
Yeah.
Warney was, I think, the skipper. There was a little controversy about our man at number 3. That was the problem, because there is a very fine number 3 for Australia. Probably
David Boone.
No. Right state.
Art Ponting, 100%.
Yeah.
He's got a very fake head of hair.
Yeah.
That was a good half-hour debate about whether we should put him in the team or not, because he's not.
Oh no, he's in there. He's number 3.
Yeah, that's right. But he's not one who's actually publicly gone out
advertised
there.
it.
When you look at his head of hair now versus when he was the first third of his career, a different human being.
Yes. We've got a left arm spinner.
Oh, hang on.
There he is.
Hang on. Stop the flights. We've got a fresh entrance.
Gat's failed, sadly. Gat tried. Gat paid 100,000 for that. And look at it.
Wow, that hasn't worked.
Look at
what's the matter with the t-shirt?
Gat, no, we're talking about the top of the head, Gat. Up here, mate.
On top of the head, it's all gone, mate. Number one all over.
I've been ringing you all evening. You're not answering your phone.
Are you ringing all evening?
I've been ringing you.
You can't have been, because I haven't got any missed calls.
Oh, blimey. Well, I have been.
Mike, welcome. Hello.
Welcome.
Hello, sorry about that.
All right.
Did we wake you?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim. I beg your pardon.
You're all right.
How are you? And
Well,
Dubs, you all right?
Yeah.
Very well, mate. How are you?
Hello, Gat.
I'm sorry I'm a bit late. I was say it was a bit. I'm not sure what happened.
Looks like Fu Manchu.
Wrong.
What's going on?
I actually just put on my world clock and found I thought it was half an hour earlier than it was. So I was just thought I was going to be on time at 8 o'clock, but I've got the half an hour mixed up somewhere. So I apologise.
Not at all. Lovely to have you.
Hey, Gat, you haven't been called up like Colin Cowdery was years ago to help these blokes out and runs in Melbourne?
Well, it should be.
There's a few of us that probably could do something, I suppose, but you don't want to go down that route just yet, because it's a bit strange. I just find some of the techniques slightly interesting, the way they're playing at the moment. But there we are, one of those.
Are you able to? So to bring you up to speed, Aggers has incredibly gone on the defence of the performance and has largely cited a lack of pre-series prep as the reason for the performance. What's your broader take on where we're at right now in the series?
Well, I think to be perfectly honest, that is a huge factor. But you could say it's the same for the Australians as well. To be perfectly honest, although they have played some great cricket, from my point of view, I honestly just think. I mean, it was interesting. Michael Atherton wrote an article not so long ago about the sort of if you remember the scandal about the dietitian's sheet that went around the rooms and went around the sort of thing, and it seems to be more about that than actually sometimes about the actual techniques of people and how do they sort of get there, etc., and what are people focusing on? Is it about sort of doing the basics right? The catching's been poor again, sadly. I think that's a huge factor, to be perfectly honest. I mean, had Mr. Smith caught one or two, who's one of your best catchers, I mean, the Test match could have been over a lot shorter. So I think there's a lot of things, a lot of the basic things that we haven't done well. The bowlers, I think, have bowled pretty well, to be fair. I think they've done a good job, but we expected them to do a good job. We were always worried about the batting. I mean, Milan and Root. Stokes, as you'd expect, although he said he was ready, it's never quite the same as being in you play these matches where you're playing against yourselves. There's not that sort of, what I'd say, bite about it that you need. When you play the state teams, they want to beat you badly. And that's great practice for when you get out in the middle against the Aussies. And I'm not making excuses here, but that is fact. So when you're having a net and you're playing against your mates, it's not quite the same as when you're playing an Ashes match and you really sort of need something like that. But as I say, we had to be better than we have been. in a couple of areas, and that was with the bat and the ball, and they're two big areas where, you know, with the ball I meant catching, and with the bat obviously not getting enough runs. So I honestly think you know, we're second best at the moment, and you know, they can still improve their catching and they can still sort of get some runs, but it's a long way back because, as I say, your bowling attack, even without Cummins and Hazelwood, they did extremely well. But you know, Nisa and Richardson, pretty decent bowlers. So look, you can't take it away from the Aussies. They performed better than we have, and we were worried that was going to be the case.
Mike, can I just, the other part of the chat you missed, get you to weigh in, because obviously over in England, it's a bit hard for you to provide an auction item that's easily transferable. So that's okay. But we have 3 auction items up for grabs at the moment. Mark Taylor has provided a signed Test wide brimmed hat, fielding hat, a signed one-day wide brim fielding hat, and Aggers, in your absence, provided, as you can see there, a pair of his underwear, freshly pressed, unsigned, which they're all roughly going for about the same price. Now, Aggers thinks his underwear is worth more than Mark's ODI hat, but less than his Test hat.
My underpants are worth more than anything.
Oh my God.
Can I just say, these pants, they've
Ralph
been through.
Stood the test of time,
have seen it all. These pants, they've toured Pakistan. They've, I think, toured Sri Lanka. These pants have
Sri Lanka.
Absolutely
They're not
been
the
through
ones
a
you
test
had
of
in.
time.
You're not the ones you had in Gaul, Aggers.
I think I did have them in Gaul, in which there was an unfortunate accident, and
Yes,
they
I
hung on
heard,
a fan to dry them out after a bad accident. So, can I just say, these pants? There's never been a set of underpants auctioned on air like this before. And if you are seriously suggesting
You're right.
a pair of
Yeah, we agree with that.
Mark Taylor's hat could be anything. I mean, that is, you know, look at that. Look at that.
Well, I suppose you can't beat Aggers' underwear, but I do happen to have here a scorecard from the World Cup final in 2019. Yeah, and what I will do is I'll get both captains to sign it, hopefully this year, and hopefully that might be a nice one. So I've got them there, and I've got 4 or 5 to do for my charity. So hopefully Kane and Owen will sign them for me, and I can hopefully give that to somebody who might like that as a souvenir.
That's pretty good. Gat, but your pants, would they fit the screen or would they
God.
Aggers, I have to say, from the beanpole that you were, you seem to have blossomed at long last. You might have been a yard quicker had you had a little bit of weight on you by now. Blimey.
Hey, what he might have got 120 Ks.
I'm not sure I get that quick, Mark, but
Well, that was it. No, that's in his car I'm talking about.
all right.
thank you very much.
Okay, so
how are we going on the bidding? Can we ramp it here?
$300.
I think my pants are in the lead. I think the pants are in the lead, aren't they?
Pants are not in the lead. Like, upsettingly, they are currently scoring the same bid as Mark's ODI hat. $300.
That seems about right. That seems absolutely right. It's what it's worth.
$300 for the scorecard, $300 for the Test hat, $200 for the knickers, $200 for the one-day hat, and the bidding continues. Jim, you can figure this out.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have Gat on the show. Have you been watching much of this, or do you had to turn it off, Gat?
Watching much of the cricket?
Yeah.
No, I have to say I've watched a lot of the highlights. I did get up and watched quite a bit of the day-night match because of the nice timings. But generally speaking, I watched the sort of first hour of the Test match, which always seemed to be a reason. So it gave us a little bit of hope, and then it was quickly dashed later on in the afternoon. Fortunately, whilst I was asleep. But no, as I say, I have watched an awful lot of it. As I say. It has been disappointing because I really did feel with Stokesy being out there, he might have just helped with the bat. But as I say, when you think about it, having not played, a couple of guys, I mean, haven't played a Test match for 9 months, let alone any other cricket, really. And you can't do that. You can't really, get yourselves into a situation where where you haven't played any cricket for that amount of time and expect to come in against a very good team like Australia and compete.
Well, you got to remember, we haven't played Test cricket since January.
No, that's very true. That is also very true. As I said, it isn't. You're quite right. You're quite right. But I think some of the guys have played some state cricket, which is pretty decent cricket. So they've had a little bit of a run out. And as I say, if we'd have had a couple of state games, I would have been slightly happier. And I'm not sure that the result would have been any different, Jim, because of the bowling attack that you guys have. And you know, we're sadly lacking in a spinner of quality. Which is you know, we've got some goodish spinners, but not quality like Mr. Lyons, who's bowled extremely well. And
So
have we
you-
picked the right side as well? That's the other scenario.
Yeah, well, that seems to be a problem. But you can't see Ollie Robinson developing into a Tony Gregg then?
No, I don't think so. Chris Wokes has probably got a better chance, to be fair. But no, I think Wokes is a decent cricketer. Some strange reason he probably hasn't, well, he hasn't had any luck or he hasn't bowled as well as he might have done or what, I don't know. But I think Ollie Robinson has been a bit of a find for us, to be perfectly honest. He's a sort of guy that gets it in the right place often enough. And it really has been, you know, amazing to see how he's taken the Test cricket from ball one, where he's run in and, you know, like he bowls for his county, just manages to get good players out, which is a very happy knack.
Hey, Gat, a question without notice, mate. You mentioned that you were fairly happy with the bowling, and I have to disagree. I've been disappointed, particularly with Jimmy. I know it's only been 2 tests, but he missed the first one because of selection, and that's maybe not down to him. But when you're a 39-year-old fast bowler and you're on a tour of your 9th Ashes tour, you're telling the selectors roughly what you're going to be able to do. So he doesn't play the first test. The second test, I thought he was steady without being a great leader in terms of that attack. Can a 39-year-old guy be the leader of an attack?
Good question. There's, as we all know, there comes a time when you got to hang up the boots, or you got to do it, and it's up to you yourself to decide whether you can do that or not. And I have to say, I suppose you could say even the last Test series he was here, he didn't get perhaps as many wickets, but he went about 2.5 and over. Whereas the one before that, even he really got smashed around, and you know, he didn't have a great series. So you could say maybe the writing was there, but you know, Jimmy's just, you know, he's been a magnificent bowler. Would you leave somebody out like that? I mean, I suppose you would have to say that, you know, having got that many wickets, you would hope he would give the team something. Now, I understand he had a calf injury going into the first Test match. What I couldn't quite understand was somebody like Brody, who when you talk about leading an attack, he's still young enough, and he, you know, when you think he's got a hex over Warner, or supposedly, he didn't play, and I found that surprising, because we didn't really, you know, didn't really have the sort of, I suppose, the leader. You got Robinson, you had Wokes, you had Woody. Woody, I wouldn't say was a leader. He's an enforcer, and Brody might well have been that leader. So it was quite interesting, the selection in that one too. It's always a great place to lose a toss, I think, in Brisbane. I really do a lot of the time. But I would say that if I was him, I would have certainly played Broad, because of the situation. The first Test match, you've got a bloke who seems to have the hex on someone like Warner. You don't want Warner to get in, because he's going to be one of those guys that are going to try and lead the team and really bustle and hustle. But again, you know, we dropped him once or twice, and you can't do that in a Test match, especially, you know, in these sort of Test matches. So, yeah, but did we get the team right? Did we do the right thing? I mean, Joe Root decided he was going to bat first, therefore he needed to play a spinner. So, you know, again, one of those sort of scenarios, and yet you leave a spinner out in Adelaide, where the weather forecast was pretty decent, and you're going to have a drying pitch, etc., etc. Do you need 5 seamers? Should we have played an extra batter? There's lots of other little bits of things, but I always hate criticising too much, because you're never there. You never know what the pitch is like. So many thousands of miles away, but it did seem a bit strange. 5 seamers, 4 should do the job. Play an extra batter. player spinner. Well, they see Joe Root bowls as well. You could say possibly as well as any of them.
Yeah.
He turns it and he bowls probably just as well as any of them. So, you know, it really is a difficult one. And you would have thought with the runs that he weren't getting, I mean, yes, it's going to swing around day and night. You know, if he's going to do that, 4 should be enough, shouldn't it? You shouldn't need a fifth seamer. So again, just some of the basics of what's going on is sometimes you question a bit.
Okay, so
Hey, mate.
fair bit going on. Is it possible, gents, to stick on the line? We're supposed to finish at 9, but with Gats being a little bit late, if no one has anywhere to meet, please by all means.
My pants are going for more than Mark Taylor's hat.
Okay, so firstly,
the best. So
that's not the case. You know, that's not the case because the people have spoken. Now, watching your screen there, Aggers, you seem particularly attached to this underwear. Are you comfortable letting them go?
My pants are going for Mark Taylor's hat.
Your nickery.
Okay.
Yeah, well, then it's underpants, but my signed underpants, I think, are worth more than Mark Taylor's fielding hat for Australia.
Where we sit right now,
and that's really important. No,
it's not. According to the viewers,
According to the bidding,
Mark's test hat is worth now, thank you, Janine, $334, and that's a nice beauty. That's sharp. We have
my pants.
your pants remain at $200. Guy stepped in and said we can't let Aggers Knickers beat Tubby's merch, so $250 for the ODI hat.
That is ridiculous.
And $300 for the Gatting scorecard. So unless you can rally the people,
you can have a vendor. You can have a vendor bid if you want it.
These underpants.
Get the missus to donate $300, Aggers. That'll do.
No,
she'll pay $300 for them.
You are going to wear these on a daily basis. You're going to go shopping. You go whatever in these beautifully comfortable Ralph Lauren underpants. You're not going to go shopping or whatever in your Mark Taylor hat, which is worth sod all. These are
I'm not going to go shopping in either of the two, actually.
These are an opportunity. Actually, these are Ashes winning pants. I took 0 for 100 of these and scored 2 knockouts in the Ashes winning series of 2005. So let's add that to the price of it.
Hey, so Aggers 0 for 100 in those pants. So they're not unique then. There's a few of those around.
Well, no, there might be. However, I'm offering these my 0 for 100 and 2 knockout underpants that won the Ashes in 2005. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So I'm going to tuck it up here, and that is worth considerably more than Mark Taylor's.
Okay. So let's just we need to just pull this down because Aggers, you have a hard out, right? Do you have to leave at 9-ish?
Well, I need something to eat, really.
Looking at you, you don't need anything to eat, mate. So I'll just settle down and just get a cup of tea and be all right.
Get the Uber Eats, Aggers. Get the Uber Eats.
Well, I did last. Seriously, we're carrying on.
Look, we have a bunch.
We want to get your price up to $201.
Then I will go Uber Eats. So that's absolutely fine.
Okay. Well, you take a second to just order your dinner. Is that okay? Because that's rude of us. Are you sure?
It's like watching Mark Taylor bat. I mean, it's pretty tedious. So I'll get.
All right. So
what
comes at the moment, I tell you. I think that's a very good exchange if we could do that.
Is that DK Lee down the screen there, is it?
I'll go tedious Uber Eats if that's what it takes.
Okay.
That hideous Lings. Where was that really awful Lings? I've even blocked the shit out of it somewhere. But no, that's fine. I'll order Uber Eats.
Mark, are you comfortable sticking around for just a little bit longer? We won't roll out. And Mike, are you okay to just stick around for a bit?
Yeah, sure.
And Jim, do you have any?
No problem. I was just thinking.
I'm sorry, Tom. I didn't mean that.
There's probably a lot of questions out there from.
Well, yeah, but can you at least ask, Jim? Can you at least ask one commentary question? This is the theme of the entire thing. Just one broader commentary question, so we can at least tick the box.
It's got a bit random. We're all over the world on this.
You're wearing underwear has sent us random.
Well, this is classic radio commentary. You can talk about anything but the cricket.
Yeah,
it happens whether you're on the BBC, ABC, or Triple M. That's cricket. That's why radio cricket's so good, because you can go somewhere else. TV, you're always stuck to what they stick up on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Aggers.
They're right there. They're right there. All right, Jim, you have the floor
Right.
for the next little bit. Then we'll go to the people's questions. The bidding stays open.
No. Let's go. I mean, they've been very patient putting up with our to and fro and Aggers underpants. So
Okay. A question from Andrew Wildblood. Did Gats ever face Aggers, and what happened?
I'm sure I did on a couple of occasions because we always used to play Leicester. Aggers was always kind to me because we had a fast bowler in our team called Wayne Daniel, and if he ever got a bit lively with any two of us, he used to just have to pitch it up to us because he didn't want to face the short stuff from Wayne Daniel. I had to field at short leg a couple of times. I nearly got trampled on quite comfortably. But
excuse me, thanks very much indeed.
To be fair, he used to bowl very well, and I have to say we toured India. I'm not sure he got me out. Probably did. I'm sure he'll tell me, but if he did, but I can't remember him getting me out. That a bloke
So the
called
really
DeFreitas,
sad thing is, I never got Gat out. I can't believe how I didn't. I used to bowl straight and full. I can't believe how I didn't get him out, but I never got Gatting out, which is a massive, massive, massive blow.
Did I ever get you out though, Aggers?
No, because you used to bring Wayne Daniel on.
Well, that's what I thought. You never lasted that long.
I never faced your filth. You could be used to wing Wayne Daniel. That was ever anyway. Gat, what are you bidding for these? Come on, Gat.
Me bidding for those? I've seen so many sets of your underwear, Aggers. I think that's the last time I ever wanted to see him when I left the dressing room. So I'm certainly not bidding for those. I'd get your wife to do that.
No, we should bid.
Okay, next question is from Luke. Luke says to the guys, their commentator's curse. Have you ever actually praised a player and then they've done something disastrous? Jim, I'll start with you.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the foot and mouth disease, you know, it goes on all the time. As soon as you open your mouth and you say someone's doing so well and everything else, you just know in the back of your mind, this is the kiss. This is the kiss. And I wouldn't know how many times it's happened, but it's inevitable. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there's been.
Yeah.
I'll be really honest.
The moment.
Ashton Agar, that's right. When he got 98 years.
98,
yeah. Mark?
Got to the point where 100 was inevitable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. And bang, he hoiked it into the out and was caught at deep mid wicket.
They're the ones that you remember. You remember the ones where a batsman's getting close to a milestone, particularly 100, and you'll mention the 100, and then sure they get out, and then you start thinking, oh, geez, I hope that wasn't me, and obviously it's not you, but it's that commentator's curse. Or the moment you say this guy doesn't look like getting out, you can just about bet that he's out in the next over. He plays the worst shot that he hasn't looked like playing for 2 hours. Or someone stands on their ear and takes a great catch, and then all of a sudden everyone looks at you and says, oh, you know the game, don't you? Never looked like getting out. He's back in the pavilion. So, yeah, I'm a bit like Jim. You don't actually remember the instances, but it's generally around those milestones that you talk them up and you can just about bet that someone will get out on you.
Aggers?
I'll be honest. I do it on purpose. So if there is an opposition batsman or partnership that's going on for hours, my word, these two will never get out. My word, they're absolutely nailed on or whatever. So a bit like the Australians, maybe this series, Warner and Labuschagne or whatever. You might say, good Lord, these two will never get out. Actually, there's sure hope, therefore, that they will. That's happened a few times, but I don't know if it works. Does it work? Is it actually valid? I'm not sure that it does, but we do try.
Gat, do you believe in the commentator's curse?
You're always very wary. I haven't done as much as obviously the guys there, but I mean, you do put your foot in it sometimes. I remember doing it with Jim once when I was commentating, and I put my foot in it when we were winning a match, and I got a bit carried away. But I was. Yeah, you're always worried. I'm sure I've done a couple of little stints for Middlesex, and you say how well the guy's playing, and he does get out. It does happen, but I mean, the amount of times you say it and it doesn't happen, I think it's just that's the reason you remember it, the commentator's curse, I suppose, because you know, if you're talking about a player, you're going to say hopefully some good things about him, but you know, the one time there is going to be a time when he's sat and he's going to get out. So
and funnily enough, so 111 is our Nelson, which is our unlucky number. But our Stato proved the other day that actually more people get out on 112 and 110 than 110. So there you go. We are very superstitious, all of us.
Yeah.
All cricketers are superstitious.
Right.
But our Nelson is ridiculous.
A question
It's like
from...
87. 87 was supposed to be an unlucky.
Yeah, you're unlucky number. Yeah.
Well, Keith Miller came up with it. And the story is that it was actually 89 when these things happened. So, but they convinced you to get their feet up and the rest of it. What about in your day? Did you go on with these superstitions, Mark?
Yeah, well, 87. I'm actually working with Richie. He was always big on the 87, but he would say something along the lines of, well, so and so's
really?
87, and he would always say something always happens when a batsman's on 87. And the next ball would be a wide ball, well wide of off stump. The batsman would let it go through the keeper. And he goes, there it is. Something
really
happens. And that was it.
Is that right? On 87?
87. It was, so in other words,
13 short of 100, yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Wow. Yeah,
something always happens. Of course it does. Something does happen, but not necessarily getting out.
That's brilliant.
All right, for a question from Greg for Aggers. Did Jeffrey Boycott ever get even with you for the on-air prank you played on him reading ICC changing first-class match qualifications?
Yes.
No, he didn't, and it never will. I mean, that was just one of those, when you know somebody really well, that you know what buttons to press and wind up, that was just that 100. He'd gone on and on and on and bored us all to tears. So it was a combination of Andrew Sampson, our scorer, and a very quick email from supposedly the ICC. But he took it really well, to be fair to Jeffrey. He took it very well. But I think, that was one of our greatest wind-ups. It's where radio kind of works over TV. And we were lucky with that, and that nothing happened in the course of the 10 minutes that we were kind of slowly winding him into the fact that was not his 100th 100 headically and so on. And nothing happened. But it was kind of a radio moment, It was very good fun. But dear Jeffrey's on good form. He's been quite poorly recently. He's had open heart surgery, seriously. He's been in quite a rough way. But he's had a brilliant team of people looking after him. They found it, which obviously wasn't necessarily easy. And then they sent in the stonemason to deal with it. So Jeff is actually he's doing okay.
Okay, a question from Nathan. This is for Mike, Jonathan, and Mark, because love your take. So, as a Pom and a huge fan, Robinson being allowed to bowl spin, he calls utter village. I would not even let a seam bowler do it for the primary club. Root has lost the plot. What did you make of that? All three, Aggers, Mark, Mike.
Well, I'm passing out to Mark, actually.
Actually, no, I actually didn't mind it. I thought his offies were a bit quicker than his medium pace. That was the only problem.
No, you can't say. Excuse me. He's our premium seam bowler. You can't say that.
Well, he might be. That doesn't change the fact he wasn't bowling very quickly.
I can't wait to see you now.
How does it
Can I just say, I'm going to see Taylor next week. I'm going to sort him out next week.
I'll now be serious. I didn't mind it because I know I've read somewhere he's done it in the past. So obviously he bowls a reasonable off, and there's been a number of cases where seam bowlers, particularly tall seam bowlers, have become very good spin bowlers.
Tony Gregg.
I remember
Tony Gregg, yeah.
Yeah, I remember Steve Whitfield here in grade cricket I played with for years. He was a left arm swing bowler, ended up bowling left arm spin, and a very good left arm spinner. So those big, tall, lanky guys are bloody handfuls if they can land their spinners. So I didn't mind it, and as I said, he wasn't bowling that quick anyway, so
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to spin
But
it.
hang on, but he was actually dangling his nether regions in an ice bucket at the time. So dear old Joe Root was kind of, he was precariously placed. So on a turning pitch, who else is going to bowl it? I thought he did all right. I mean, he's not going to be a match winner, but
I'm with you. I just said that. I'm fine.
Question for Taylor is: would you have had throwdowns on the edge of the outfield without a box?
I said yes, I would.
Gat,
Not with the dog wanger.
We did it all the time. I mean, we had throwdowns on the edge of the ground. I mean, the idea was to keep your legs out the way. It was actually good practice, keep your legs out of the way, actually. But no, you just have a few throwdowns. But I mean, those doggy throwdowns, I mean, it's a bit like anything. I mean, they come down a bit quick sometimes, and it's you just want a few just to get the bat coming down and just hitting the bat. You don't really want them to be coming down at 90 miles an hour at you or something.
But
stupid
the pain. I mean, that's just it's horrific with no box.
Yeah, well, we didn't have the wanger though. That wanger makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of throwdowns. You get it on the shin occasionally, but I mean that's just unfortunate. We try and find a flat bit of outfield,
but not in the nuts.
Well, no, you don't expect to get in the nuts, so do you? Because you normally get a bat or something on it.
Well, but
you're not coming down that quick either.
Hey, Aggers wouldn't know because he wasn't on the pitch. You can't get hit in the nuts if you're bloody off the pitch in your back.
Actually, thank you, Taylor. Thank you very much.
If you're shaking hands with the umpire, it's not easy, is it?
Wow. Okay, carry on with the questions. Thank you.
On this exact topic, Adrian Sheen has asked a question, primarily to Aggers. Brian Johnston would have said Root's one ball left. Would that be PC today? Some memories of Brian Johnston from Aggers, please.
He might have said one ball left. There are a few of Brian's that were not absolutely accurate, like the bowlers holding the batsman's willy was never actually said. He would like to have said it. But again, on radio, you can get away with all sorts of...
the leg over incident. The leg over.
Well, but you count the leg over and various other things we've had with dear old fucker Zaman. We've had a few laughs at that. And on radio you can, and that's part of it when you're driving through the bush or whatever you're doing. So as a radio commentator, I think you're trying to entertain people as much as you are trying to describe as what's going on in the play. So, I'd have no doubt made a bit of capital out of one ball left, yes.
Can I ask a question to Jim? This is just as a personal fan. Do you consider yourself one of the voices of cricket? You in the same realm as a Tony Greig and Bill Laurie, etc. With your voice comes the sound of summer.
Well, I'm a voice of cricket, and it's a question I've been asking the ABCs ever since I started doing Test cricket a long while ago. So can we get some numbers on who's listening? Oh, no, it's a non-ratings period. We can't do anything about it. Because, anecdotally, there's the assumption that a lot of people listen, but we haven't been able to prove it. And just recently, because we pump out a lot of stuff on digital radio and the rest of it, you can actually measure the people who listen on those devices. And I can tell you, if you haven't heard, that in the first test in Brisbane, there were 2.5 million people listening to our coverage on those devices.
Wow.
I said to the boss in radio, I said, can you please tell the managing director and the board, because we'd like to have a Christmas bonus or something as a result of pulling such an audience. But I mean, there's lots of voices. In Australia, there are more voices on cricket than any other country. You have 4 radio networks covering it, and the only competing television coverage in the world, Foxtel versus Channel 7 as well. So there's a lot of voices, aren't there? Out there covering the game. Yeah, it's extraordinary. And
people in Australia get my voice. That's what's amazing. I get into a taxi in Sydney, and they'll say, wow, that's cricket. So it's brilliant that people listen to cricket on the radio. That's what it's all about.
Well, there's a lot of people who listen to cricket on the radio and they don't know anything about it, right? They listen because it's a kind of narrative, like listening to serials in the old days or something. And it's just a companion. That's one of the great strengths of radio overall. But with cricket on the radio, people just listen because they like to hear voices talking about this and that. And the cricket's sort of over there somewhere. They don't really mind what's happening in the game, but they've got a friend on the radio. That's the intimacy of radio, and that's why.
Can I just say, these underpants, these underpants
no,
are worth so much.
They
more.
are intimate. They are
So
very
much
intimate.
more.
Put them away.
Any hat Mark Taylor puts out on some sort of auction tonight. Can I just say, keep bidding. Keep bidding.
You're still at 200. You're still at 200.
I can't be less than Taylor. That is so disappointing. That is so disappointing.
The test hat and the scorecard 300. All right, next question. Mark, we'll throw this one to you, but everyone can chime in. We appear to have 3 Australian captains: Pat Cummins, Steve Smith. Jesus, possibly in time to come Tim Payne. I think that's gone. Can you predict how the Australian captaincy is going to play out in the next few years? This is from Janetta Russell.
Question.
No is the answer to that. That's it.
Yeah.
Look, I hope that we just have a number of years of a lot less dramas and controversies around the Australian captain. We all know, I think Australians know, and I think probably the cricket world know, that Pat Cummins is a good bloke. He's a good fella, obviously a hell of a good bowler. So he picks himself in the team. You'll get a really good fella who knows the game well enough, but also doesn't have an ego that's that big that he won't be prepared to ask other people for help, which will be a good thing. So with that in mind, he should be a very good captain for a long time. Now, but as I said, that's the easy answer. But in the world that we live in now, things change very quickly. And we've just seen that with the fact that we had like 3 captains in 3 test matches. We had Tim Payne, lost him, and then Pat Cummins does 1 test, and then through COVID we have Steve Smith. I think AB and I, as 2 captains, did 143 test matches between us, the 2 captains, and we did 3 captains in 3 tests. So it's amazing how the world of today has changed. So
is that the issue with the bowler captain?
Yeah, bowler captains, as I said, I've always been a bit worried about that, but I like Pat because he is prepared to say that there'll be challenges as a bowling captain.
Yeah,
and he's prepared to admit that and get some help and use whoever he needs to use to help him while he's out there. And if he does that well, Australia are going to have a bloody good captain for a number of years.
And Gat, on the flip side, and the question came up earlier, Joe Root, the suggestion is couldn't continue as captain for England because of how it's gone so far. Where do you sit on that?
Well, I suppose you'd have to say at some stage, if things don't continue or don't get better, then they might have a look. But you'd have to then say, if you go back to somebody like Alan Border when AB started and how things didn't go quite as well for him to start with for a period of time until he started getting it back after sort of 80, 88, somewhere around about then, things sort of went upwards. But again, he then started to get a decent side together and a strong side. And I think, to be perfectly honest with you, Mark will probably tell you, you can be a good captain, but if you haven't got the quality of players, then it doesn't matter how good a captain you are. If you put Mike Brearley, say, with the Glamorgan side, he might have made them slightly better, but would he have done that when he, say, for example, had 11 Test cricketers at one stage? So I honestly think that, yes, you can be a good captain. You can have a good team spirit and whatever, and you can get the best out of them. But if they're not quite as good as other players, because you have, for example, the West Indies side, I mean, just incredible side. The Aussie side in the 90s, fantastic side. You just have a good a captain you are. You probably aren't going to beat sides like that. So good captains do make a difference in certain areas. If you've got the what I'd say the ingredients to be able to make the use of those ingredients and make them into a good team, then yes, a lot of the time you can actually be a good captain. But I think in general, in general. I say this in general because there have been some captains who shouldn't have been captains, and we've had a few of those because of just their individual sort of natures, and therefore they should never have been really handed. Because when somebody talks about ego, Mark was talking about egos, there's one or two that shouldn't have probably had it, but because of that, and on the other hand, you know, you do need the good ingredients, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, another question for Gat, and look, to be very fair, I've never heard you speak about this, and I'm sure it is the #1 question you get. So, however you want to answer it, ball of the century.
It was June the 4th. It was 1993. Mark Taylor had got 100 in the first innings at Old Trafford.
And that was the highlight of the game. It's been over.
That was your 100, Tubbs. It was a fantastic 100 because nobody else got any runs in that first innings apart from you. Actually, no, your partner did.
That's got 50, yeah.
Yeah, and that was it. After that, Tufnell and Such bowled you out on a wicket that turned.
Oh yes, I remember that.
So it came to our innings, and I think it was sort of early on the second day. We managed to bowl them out quite quickly that morning, and so we had a bit of time to actually play just before lunch. And I think it was Atherton and Gooch opened. And we were going on quite nicely because I think Merv had been out the night before. The sun had come out. We'd had the heavy roller on. It was pretty flat. We were motoring along quite nicely. I think we were about 70 for none when I got to the crease, about 20 to 1 or something. And Merv had certainly been out that night because I saw him coming out of the pub going into the pub as we were coming out, and Morney wasn't far behind him, I don't think, because they had Merv was his mentor that trip apparently, so that was quite interesting. Anyway, so there I am. Gucci's come up to me and said, "We've got to be here at lunchtime." I said, "Yep, Skip, not a problem. Looks pretty flat." I'd got off the mark with a 4, I think, off Merv, and then AB just before lunch said to Warnie, he said, "Warnie, mate, come and have a bowl." He said, "See a little fat twat down the other end. He's a good cutter and puller, mate. Make sure you pitch it up and bowl it straight." And so Warnie's at the end of his run up, and you know, we haven't seen a lot of Warnie, to be fair, and he was just fizzing the ball at the other end. AB was setting the field. It was quite a defensive field, actually. I think you must have been at first slip, weren't you, Mark?
I was there, yeah. I was.
Yeah, you were at first slip. Heels was keeping.
Golden Wing Lounge, yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Now a lot of people said it pitched leg stump, but it did pitch outside leg stump, I can assure you. Heels was going down the leg side. I mean, he really fizzed this one. I mean, he just as he always said to me, he said, "I just wanted to get up the other end, Gat." He said, "You know, you're a bit unlucky," but he fizzed this one, and it really drifted in quite late at the end. And I was trying to play it properly, like my teacher told me when you say, "Just have a look at the pitch, see if it's turning, see what the wicket's doing," blah blah. Well, that didn't help because it just turned such a long way. And I'm quite wide as well, and it missed everything. It missed my bat, it missed my pads, it missed my body, and it just sort of hit the top of the off bail, and off it went. And I've looked round as Ian Healy sort of jumping up and down and asking me to leave because I'm out because there's a bail on the floor. And I thought actually it was Heels in his haste to get back down the leg side from the leg side back to the off because it spun so much that he might have just nudged the bail, but it wasn't to be. And I suppose the real sad thing was when Gucci sort of wandered off and said I'd lost my concentration because it was getting close to lunch and I was thinking about lunch and not the actual ball I was playing. But there, that's what it was all about.
Mark, can I hear your version of that story?
Actually, I reckon Gat's done Warnie a favour. Well, Warnie ran. If you watch the footage, Warnie's got about 3 jumpers on. It was pretty cool. And yeah, he's right. Just before lunch, Warnie has a bowl, and Warnie's right. He was actually just trying to get it down there because he was quite cool. Just threw it, bowls it down there, and I don't know what he did, whether he did anything more or anything less than he's done on the other 45,000 deliveries he bowled in Test match cricket. But that one did. It just drifted more than most and spun. That was the weird thing because. Really, we're looking at day 2 of a Test match at
right, sun out.
Yeah, it wasn't a day 5 pitch at at Chennai or at the SCG back in those days at Turn Square. It was day 2 at Old Trafford, and it just ripped turn, and it not only surprised Gat, it surprised all of us too because I tell you right now, it surprised Warnie. No, I think Warnie will tell you probably now that yes, he meant to drift it a mile and spin it square, but I think he's, as Gat just said there, if he's being honest, he was just trying to get it down there somewhere, and maybe Gat gets an edge or gets a back pad. He wasn't thinking about pitching outside leg and hitting the top of off. No way.
I suppose the only good thing I'll ever say about that is it would have been really upsetting if Warney had become a beach bum after about 38 or 39 test wickets and didn't play another test match. The fact that he actually played 701 or got 701 test wickets and has probably been the best leg spinner.
He was only that far away though. He wasn't that
I know. There was a lot of that far away in that particular ball. Yeah, you're not wrong. But no, it was yeah. Well, look, let's be fair. He's been a wonderful thing for cricket, Warney, without a shadow of a doubt, and encourage a lot of youngsters to bowl leg spin, which is a fantastic art, and it really makes the game interesting.
Jim, do you have a wicket or a moment, maybe even that one, that you have called that just stands out to you?
Oh, wow. If I think about it hard enough, I'm afraid most of them are on the wrong side, like Casper getting caught down the leg side.
Yes, correct.
The test match. There's been a lot when we've lost. Gee, I mean, and there's so many of those Warren deliveries at the end of the day. Bassett Ali, that was one I can remember at the SCG when he knocked him over after a lot of toing and froing with everyone to work out what he was doing, just wasting a bit of time and putting a bit of pressure on. A ball that comes to...
There was a package that the ABC played the other day. There was just a broad highlights of Ashes cricket, and a lot of it was you, Jim. And one of the things that stood out to me was very regularly when there was a big moment, your turns of phrase were quite profound. Were they prepared, or do you just brace the moment and you find the words at the same time?
No, I'll tell you one. I'll tell you one right now. It was when Michael Clark got 300 at the SCG. It's the only 300 ever made at the SCG. Remembering that the previous highest score was almost 100 years ago. R.E. Foster got 287. And I can remember that. And it's fair to say, out of whatever you want to interpret this analysis, I don't rehearse anything I do on the air. And that's where I come up with things like, as Agus might recall, at Manchester 2019, when we won the match, about Australia being all hugger-mugger. And I still don't know why I said that. If you don't, hugger-mugger is Eskimo kissing with the nose and everything. And they're all in this embrace, and I just said they're all hugger-mugger. And I thought to myself, what did you say that? Anyway, the Michael Clark one was a big crowd, a lot of atmosphere. It had been an absorbing morning because Kerry O'Keefe had got Harsha Bogley to eat a chili, right? One of the Naga chili, which is one of the hottest chilies of all. And in those days, the box was where the crowd was, just outside. And this bloke handed a bag of chilies up. And of course, Kerry was right onto it, you know. There's no way he was going to eat it, but he got Harsha to have one, and Harsha couldn't speak for half an hour. So it came after that, because that carry on with the crowd was a distraction. And I'm sure if anyone on the field was looking, I think, what's going on? And this is nothing to do with the cricket. What's happening up there? So if he gets his 100, and I do remember saying, well, everyone's enthralled, something like this, with Michael Clark reaching a 300, because if anyone is here today watching this, they have seen something they will never see again in their lives. A test triple century at the SCG. And it's just something that bang came out of my head. And I thought, well, yeah, that's appropriate to the occasion. And probably in our lifetimes, at least, we won't see a triple at the SCG. So that's pretty much how it works. You try to be instinctive rather than planned when these things happen.
Agus, do you play the same way?
Yeah, but it's the same. You don't plan much. I mean, my favourite moment was Steve Waugh's 100 in 2002-03 when I sat down in Jim's box, actually, with no. I mean, what was he on? 88 was he when I sat down with you, Jim?
Into the last
that. No, yeah, when he got his 100, but I think. There were about 3 or 4 overs to go, 5 overs mainly, and it didn't seem like he was likely to get his 100. And I was with Kerry, and broadcasting to ABC, so not the BBC, but an Australian audience. And I didn't think for a moment he's going to get his 100. But it kind of inched its way there, and it was amazing. And the whole tension was that Hussein was captain of England, moving his field and stuffing about. And I remember saying, he can come back tomorrow. He can come back tomorrow and get his 100. And Kerry O'Keefe saying, no, that's what Poms do. Poms come back tomorrow. Aussies do it now, blah, blah, blah.
Go for gold.
It was an incredible moment because the last ball was an off spinner, off stump, bang, and Steve Waugh, who I'd followed through the whole series because ABC weren't there. So I interviewed Steve before every match. So actually was, got quite close to him. And the odds were against him, and they were starting to rack up against him as captain and get a new man in. But he hit that 4, bang, through the offside off Dawson for 4. And that was very special because I knew, commentating on the Australian radio, how important that was for him and what it meant for Australian listeners. It didn't matter about the English listeners because that was a different thing altogether. But the whole side story of Steve Waugh, captain, carry on, and all those things, and people listening, and the stories you get from people who drawn up in their utes in somewhere in Northern Territory listening and stuff. That was, I think, the most connection I've had with Australian broadcasting. Actually, that amazing moment that Steve Waugh, bang, hit that 4 through the covers of the last ball for 4. That was to get his 100. That was very special. That was very special indeed. I'm proud that I did it and happy that I did it. Although I'm sure that most Australians would like an Australian to have done it, but it was a really special moment.
Mark, the 2 bits of commentary that I think of with you was one, the Peter Siddle hat-trick in Brisbane, and the Shane Warne dismissal when he was on 96-ish or thereabouts. But is there? Yeah. I won't get to tell the tragedy story, but is there a commentary moment for you?
Well, you mentioned the Siddle hat-trick, and that was obviously a lot of fun. I tell you the one that sticks with me, though, was Warnie's 700th wicket when he bowled Strauss at the MCG.
Oh, yeah.
99,000 people in or something like that.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And Warnie's got sitting on 699 test wickets. And Bill Lawry was in commentary, lead commentary, for about, it was over an hour. Normally you do your half hour on, half hour off. Bill sat in the chair for over an hour. But he'd been invited to the MCC lunch, and he wanted to go. So eventually they said, well, Tubby, you go in, because Warnie bowled a bit and didn't get a wicket. So then I'm sitting in the chair, and exactly as Jim said, I never rehearse anything. I just call the game because as you should do, the way you love the game and the way you see the game. And I was, all of a sudden I'm calling the game and Warnie's bowling and he knocks over Strauss, and I said something like, knocks him over and they can't catch him because off he goes. And you're just calling the play. That's what you're there for. You're just trying to add a bit of flavour to what you're seeing. And for radio commentary, which I'm learning on the go at the moment, you've got to obviously paint a bit more of a picture. But I don't like scripting of cricket, scripting of sport. You have to be living it. You have to be there, sitting in the chair, and if you're not enjoying it, when your side's doing well, you're not going to call it right. And if you're not feeling a bit of pain when your side's not doing well, you're not going to call it right. So that's the key to broadcasting.
All right, Jess, I understand that we've blown over. Agus, how's your Uber Eats order going? Did you get food?
I'm about to order it, but
you haven't ordered?
I think kind of dinner time's about here, but
oh, sorry. Okay.
I'll try and find something.
Okay,
I reckon he's sniffed his undies that much he won't want to eat.
Can I just say, before I say good night, if that does not outbid Mark Taylor's pretty trashy hat, I'll be really disappointed. These are
trashy hats.
These are proper.
They're not trashy.
Polo.
They're not trashy.
Look at that.
Okay.
Mate,
That is
if you don't get about half a dozen pairs through the post from Ralph Lauren for all this
It doesn't
advertising,
matter.
I'm
As
not
long as I
sure what
beat-
you're doing it for,
as
but you're
long as
obviously
I
struggling
beat-
for underpants at the moment.
As long as I beat Tubbs rather sadly effort as a couple of hats.
Okay.
They're good to go. So I'm going to say good night to you because I need some dinner.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. We're
And I will
going to wrap
catch
this up in
you,
a
Jim.
second anyway. So you
Tubbs,
can-
I'll see you.
See you in Melbourne.
I'll see you in Melbourne, Mark.
Yeah.
Okay, don't lose your pants before the test match.
$250.
If they don't outbid that pathetic hat from Mark Taylor, I'll be very sad.
Well, thank you, Agus. Thank you.
Cheers all. Good night.
Good night.
See you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angus.
Okay, so a
Good
couple of
night.
quick questions, and then we'll wrap it up all together because we've blown way over and really appreciate it. We've got a couple of quick questions, so short fire answers, and then we'll let you guys go because really appreciate it. Okay, question for Gatting. Opening batsman Rory Burns surely isn't up for it. Who opens the batting for the Boxing Day test?
Jesus Christ.
If he doesn't get picked,
Yeah.
then Crawley will open. Simple as that, I think. There's no other options really. Crawley's got to do it. He hasn't played any cricket. That's the only problem. And they might not even bother because nobody can play any cricket. So how do they expect these guys to come in and play? But they might have to do something. It'll be interesting to see what they do. But certainly Crawley would be the one I'd go for, certainly.
Okay. For Mark, after Nathan Lyon, who's the next best spinner in Australia after the GOAT, and how important is Cam Green to the balance of the Australian team for upcoming tours? This from Peter.
I'll do the easy one first. Cam Green, he's been excellent for us. His batting's, as is always the case, his batting's, there's obviously some improvement you can make on his batting. He's been struggling a little bit around off stump, as we've seen. To get bowled in the first two innings is always a bit of a worry. So he's got still a bit of work to do there. But I've loved his energy with the ball, and I've loved him in the field. I really love the fact that he's in the gully, he's diving, he's got great hands. I feel, and I've felt for a long time now, there's too many of our young guys coming in, particularly young batters, who aren't good catchers. And that's of concern to me. I don't know why, when we have professional cricketers, full-time professional cricketers, that they're not spending more time catching and getting that skill right, because that's the essence of Test cricket is, as Gat said a moment ago, you take your catches, you win the games. And we've got people at the moment, even like Travis Head and Marcus Harris, who are, Headdy's no longer batting for his spot, but if you're struggling in your spot, it's good to be able to catch, because you're hard to get rid of if you're a good slipper. It adds to your skill set, and there's so I think Cam Green adds to our balance really well. Nathan Lyon, I think that's a really tough question. Obviously, it's Mitch Swepson at the moment is the sub or the next person in on the back of Nathan Lyon, but nobody knows how really good he is, because he doesn't get to bowl a lot because of what goes on. Yes, he does okay in Shield cricket, but in a way, it would be nice to see how he would have bowled at the Adelaide Oval in a test match, or at the MCG in a test match. But he's not going to get a go unless Nathan Lyon doesn't play. So maybe Australia win at the MCG, go 3-0 up and pick Mitch Swepson for Sydney. Maybe get and play a couple of spinners, see how he goes, because I'd be interested to see how he goes under test match conditions. But he seems to be the next guy.
Gat, any chance England at all?
I can't see it now, sadly, Matt. I think it's about trying to salvage, try and draw a test match. Unless something very strange happens, 2-0 down, is not good. As I say, it's difficult to come back. So I hope they fight. I hope the guys up the front of the order start fighting as hard as the guys at the back of the order did the other day. And it's not they're not trying, but at the end of the day, you got to practice your skills. End of story. Yeah.
Jim, let's wrap this up. The auction items finished as it reads. The test hat, $390, Simon Torfel. Thank you so much, Simon. I look forward to having you next month. The World Cup final scorecard, $300, Nathan Ray. Mike, thank you so much for donating. The one-day hat, $250 for Guy, Dan Skeen, and the knickers, $200 for Andrew Wildblood, the least expensive. And that goes to anyone who gets a duck for the primary club. All done, all sold. Thank you. Jim, and thank you for coordinating this sensational panel.
Well,
apologies for being late as well. Sorry.
Oh, don't be silly.
Well, Gat, you can have that breakfast bread roll or whatever now. You're ready to getting a bit hungry. But thank you very much for joining us. It's very kind of you to come on board. Matt the Great up there at Coffs Harbour with your family, and Mark Taylor at home getting ready for Christmas. So let's hope we can all get together in a good spot without too many disruptions coming up in our lives. And he's hoping for a contest in Melbourne. That's what we want, don't we?
Hopefully. A big thank you to Vocus Communications, Ponting Wines, the Entertainment Quarter. We'll see you for the test breakfast. 25th of the 1st is the next one. That is, as mentioned, the Simon Torfel and Claire Polsack Umpire Strikes Back. We will see you the Entertainment Quarter for the SCG Text Breakfast. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas all.
Happy New Year. Cheers.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, Gat.
See you later.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Jim.